What's up guys, Phantom here with my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode here, as I've been super excited to show you guys this ever since they announced it back in April. It's probably the biggest addition to the F1 games ever, as we will take our very own team and hopefully bring it to the top of the mountain. As we get started here with our career mode, we're going to basically choose the same character we had last year. I really haven't changed that much.
Let's get this team up and running. The first thing we need to do is register a team name and bring in some important partners.
As we have to now choose our team details, and we are bringing back Minardi here, as they were definitely a fan favorite back in the early 2000s, as they were pretty controversial back then. As we were bringing them back, as we will choose our sponsor here, as really I've been looking at a few career modes, and they've been choosing really the shark one a lot, as Minardi was not known for scoring points here, as really we'll go for really real life goal as trying to be 10th in the constructors there, as that would in real life get you part of the payout there, as we are choosing our engines now, as really Renault, Mercedes, and Ferrari are all too expensive for Minardi. Minardi was never known for shelling out that much cash for their engine. They were pretty much known as the weakest part of the car, as now we have to choose our teammate, as there is Ragunathan, as there are a bunch of drivers here. You know, some are paid, some are not. Shangulil, they're another paid driver. Minardi wasn't really known for taking on paid drivers in the most of its career, but starting with the end of it, they started to take on paid drivers, and so I think the decision's really easy. We're gonna have to choose Ragunathan here, as he's definitely the best driver out there, and he's also the cheapest. I don't know how you argue with his results in GP2. As we come to the livery of the team here, as you know, I've kind of mucked around with just a filler career mode, as we decided to go with, I guess it would be either 2002 with Mark Webber career design, as that is probably really the most famous incident for them, really maybe outside of Indianapolis 2005, but really 2002 Australia is the most famous incident for them in their history, as that's what I've chose to kind of replicate, at least for now. I may go through a couple of their generation of liveries, as they were known to have for pretty good liveries. As I really chose which would be the closest for our team decal, would be the closest to an M, as really it really wasn't that great of a selection to choose from, as we are just choosing our team colors, which was Minardi's team color, red, black, and white, as
But if you're ready to go, hit advance to head to Team HQ and we can start our push to the top of Formula 1.
just going on about us here, as we are going to obviously choose a 22 race season here, as we're going to bump that difficulty up, as I kind of just raced a couple of feeler races here, as this will actually be my first career mode with my wheel I got a few months ago, as I've been trying to practice and get better with it, as we are doing some gameplay settings here, as we're going to turn flashbacks off. We're going to do full damage. I don't think I could, my insanity would, I'd go insane if I had damage on simulation, as we're just going to see here, as basically everything's off besides traction control, which is on medium, since I still am on the wheel now, as we are now getting interviewed by Will Buxton here.
Okay, we're live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello folks, and welcome to the HQ of Formula One's newest team. We've been invited backstage to gain an exclusive insight into what could be one of the most exciting entries in the sport for many years. Now, we've seen a number of new teams enter the sport over the last decade, amongst their number Manor, Caterham, HRT and of course Haas. And while some have proved to be successful, others have morphed into different teams and some have disappeared completely. What marks this team out though as being something different is that its owner is also its driver. Now, there's a rich history of that in Formula 1 too. Sir Jack Brabham, John Surtees, Graham Hill and Bruce McLaren all drove their own cars in the sport, but it has become increasingly rare in recent years. What's very special about this team though is that while the team itself is new to Formula 1, so too is its driver and owner.
Whatever happens this season, you've already made the history books. Tell me, do you feel up to the mammoth task of both managing and driving for a Formula 1 team? Every team needs two drivers, but what was it that drew you to your teammates? No one aims to finish bottom of the table. Who's the team you're aiming to beat? How are you expecting the car to feel out on track? The other teams now have years of experience, both on and off the track. How are you planning to catch up to them? Overtaking is a key part of this sport. How have you ensured that your car can take advantage of each opportunity that comes your way? And finally, which of your new departments are you most proud of?
Well, that's about all we've got time for here. We will see how this fledgling team fares in its first Grand Prix.
Okay, great, thank you. That's a wrap.
As we will now go on to, I guess it would be our headquarters here, as we are pretty new to this. I've only done a starter one to see what everything was about, as really you can go on YouTube and see everything, but until you get your hands on it, you really don't know what's going on. As I choose I guess it'd be the easiest one, be the merchandise sale, as Minardi really will need money. Runs the career for the My Team part of it, definitely runs the world here. As you can see, we're kind of muffling about with the team things, as I'm really trying to get used to this stuff, as I'm looking around at the I think it's the driving camp I kind of looked around at, but just decided to go with the preseason merchandise sale, as the Grand Prix is on the 12th of March here. As we take a look around our HUD, as you can see, this is where all the facilities are with our aerodynamics here. As you can see, the guy just blowing the white paint over, as this was all the capture footage that we got from trailers and stuff. As you can see, these cost millions and millions of dollars to upgrade, so those are going to be pricey. And this is, I guess, your just standard development area, research and development for your car. As you can see, we're above Haas and Williams, which is really nice, and we're behind Alfa Romeo, as I don't think Ferrari still had their engines toned down, at least. As you can see here, we got all our engines and stuff like this, just flicking through our menus, seeing what everything has to offer. And this is the driver market here, which we'll probably be spending a fair bare amount of time, at least in season 1, until we get some half decent drivers up, with maybe Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, them. But right now we got the absolute legend Raghunathan at our side for now, as we will head to qualifying. as we start out here in Q1, as we have not made a flying lap here, as we also have not changed our helmet for this session. I kind of realized at the end of Q1 here that I needed to change my helmet. I completely forgot about that, as we go really wide there, and we kind of had to over exaggerate there as we come through the middle sector here, as through medium and high speed corners, coincidentally, it's really fine here. As you can see, there's nothing much to it, but in the low speed corners, it's just terrible to drive this car, as you can see here, as basically maybe low fourth to second gear is terrible. As we come across the line, we will finish in P18, but that will turn to P17 as Gasly has to, I don't know, replace something. He has a 10 place grid penalty for the race, as Ragunathan, disappointing in 22nd, really expecting more, as we will go to the race.
No more testing, no more practice. This is the real deal, and it's make or break here at Albert Park, home of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996, and home to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. Can Mercedes start with victory in their bid to win a 7th consecutive Constructors' title? Could Ferrari or Red Bull establish an advantage early on? And with 22 cars on the grid, how quickly can the new team find their footing? Well, it's great to be back, Anthony Davidson. We've got a lot to talk about this year.
That's right, Crofty. It felt like a long winter, but it's good to finally be back. I have to think the usual suspects will battle it out at the front, but there are always going to be some teething problems early on in the season, so whoever can keep on top of their issues will have the advantage today.
As I mentioned earlier, we're up to 11 teams this season, with a new entry run by, well, of all things, an owner-driver. That's something we haven't seen in this sport since Hector Raback over 4 decades ago. So how are they looking so far?
Ever since their participation was announced, there were questions being asked about whether an outfit like this could survive, and certainly it's proving to be a trial by fire so far. Let's hope they can continue to draw in investment and find a little more pace as well.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Albon, Sainz, Ricciardo, Norris and Esteban Ocon, Perez, Kvyat, Lance Stroll and Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Raikkonen, a Mercedes and Roman Grosjean. Russell, Latifi, Ragunathan and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
As we sit here on the grid in P17, as we're starting our first race for our team with the relived Minardi team, as we get a really good start off the line, as we immediately pull to the left of Magnussen here, as we're going to go a little bit cautious into turn 1, not wanting to get swiped. You don't want to start out something that bad. We're actually going to swipe Magnussen off there, try to steal the inside there, as we will actually break next to Stroll here, as we're side by side with him, as we're going to look to go around the outside of him, and then he just completely just swipes us there, as we are now going through the middle sector here, as Stroll was looking at Giovinazzi here, but Magnussen is looking at us, as we're going to hold her around the outside here, as we went a little bit wide there, as I'm just getting used to the wheel, as I really haven't done many laps here on F1 2020. As you can see here, we go really wide in the penultimate corner here on lap 4, coming on the lap 5 here, as it was really hard to overtake. You know, Australia isn't the easiest track to overtake, but everybody was kind of just struggling to get through the field. As you can see here, we go wide again, as we have yellow flags here, as Giovinazzi is going slow, as Magnussen will attack us around the outside here. We're going to have to hold it as we have done it, but Giovinazzi is out of the race, which will promote us to P14, as on lap 6, coming on to lap 7, a bunch of cars are pitting, as we were up into 9th place here, but that will soon end, as we are coming in at the end of this lap, and this engaged pit limiter completely distracted me as I really got distracted. I really didn't know where the sign was. As you can see behind us, Russell, who's come in, was a good 3-4 seconds behind us, and the AlphaTauri there did not help at all, but he will come out of the pits right behind us here as we come out with a 3.1 second pit stop. But we completely lost a bunch of time there, as I wouldn't be surprised if we got jumped there. As you can see, Russell's right there, and he definitely wasn't that close to us entering the pits, or on track at least, as they're coming out. As there is Magnussen, so he's must have been held, as there's Raikkonen as well, as we're going to go off track there a little bit, but we will have a really terrible launch off the corner there. Obviously being on the grass doesn't help that. He's going to look around the outside there as we were going to cover him off there, but we have actually managed to jump Raikkonen there, as we're actually still in 14, but Raikkonen's actually jumped Magnussen there, who was ahead of him before the pit stop. But you can see we're just making mistakes there, as we are still new to the game, as we actually rub a little bit with Raikkonen there a little bit, as we were going to have to go around the outside as we managed to hold it, as he could not keep his line. As we are coming up on to lap 11 here, as we lock up and then we accelerate on the grass, which was completely stupid, as that was never going to work. As I was always going to spin the tires and almost wreck there, but we have lost 14th and 15th to Magnussen as well. As you can see, the understeer is just mad behind a car, which is very not good for us, as Lewis Hamilton will win the race, but we have actually managed to keep up with Magnussen, as this will be our last shot to get past him, as we are really catching up to him, but with a, I guess, equal car, we can't really out dive bomb him into a medium speed 90-degree corner, as it is really unfortunate, as we had some pace there for the last 2 laps there, but as you can see, the tires are now falling off, as we will come home in 16th position. I wish 6th position, but we will come home in 16th ahead of our teammate Raghunathan.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
They're on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. Review the updated drivers' standings. Lewis Hamilton takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship after an excellent result. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
It's got to be Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he pulled off some impressive feats out on the track today, even by his standards.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes move to the top of the table. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.